not unusual to see a deadly car crash on the news. Unfortunately, it happens all too often. We cover the crash and identify the victims, and given our time constraints, we move on to the other news of the day. But in tonight's Cup of Joe, we get a unique look into what happens in the aftermath of that crash. The anger, the devastation, the pain, and as we found in Silverton, the recovery. The journey begins in the soil. Roots take hold, and over the years we're amazed at the eventual beauty of what grows. It's a cycle of life the Hokes family knows well.
So inside here, Joe, we call it a nursery for a reason. There's about 70,000 baby plants in here.
For 20 years, Tony and Kristen Hokes have run this nursery in Silverton, overseeing the fragile growth in their greenhouses and in their own house, raising daughters Abby and Elizabeth.
And then sometimes they get into their teenage years, which is like a 1 gallon, 2 gallon stage of a plant where they can kind of get unruly and they need a little pruning.
This year, Elizabeth had reached a milestone. She graduated from Silverton High School and started college at Western Oregon in the fall.
Caring, gentle, smart, very gifted.
But just 4 days into Elizabeth's first semester, everything changed. It was September 22nd.
Kristen called Elizabeth at 7:52, and there was no answer.
Elizabeth didn't make it to school. 2 minutes before her parents called, she was approaching the Western campus in Monmouth. Police say a driver traveling at a high rate of speed crossed the center line, slamming head-on into Elizabeth. Here's what's left of his car. Investigators believe he was intoxicated and texting right before the crash. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Call it a mother's intuition, but Kristen had a feeling something was wrong. So she and Tony drove the route Elizabeth would have taken that night. 30 minutes later, they came upon the crash site, walked past the barricades, and were told their daughter was dead.
You don't ever forget that, right? But we also knew that we had to come home to our other daughter, who was sitting at home texting us and asking, "Where's Elizabeth? Where are you guys?"
Within hours, the community of Silverton stepped in to help. People they barely knew came to Elizabeth's celebration of life to support them. The Hokes knew they had to do something to share the love and ease the pain. So within 72 hours, they had created a foundation in Elizabeth's name. Tony asked his friend Carson Lord to run it.
His number one goal for this, he said, was I want when somebody Googles my daughter's name, he said, I want the first 100 results to be acts of kindness, good things that have happened in her name. And he said, not her obituary and not news about the accident. And who can argue with that?
The foundation will provide 10 scholarships to help fulfill Elizabeth's dreams.
If you're the kid that dances down the hall and just has a spirit of life, you just might end up with that dance scholarship. And if you want to go dance in the rain, we got a $1,000 bonus for you.
The foundation will also provide direct grants. Within days of Elizabeth's death, they had already bought books and supplies for local schools. And when Silverton didn't offer a free Thanksgiving meal this year, the foundation stepped up, feeding some 200 people.
And a lot of friends came, and just to be able to sit there and serve the food to people and hear their story and go out and sit and visit with them was gave back, and I think it helped us get through it because it was the first Thanksgiving of many, and it was nice to be able to see other people.
But a foundation needs funds, and the Hokes came up with an idea based on this picture they found of Elizabeth holding a rose at her high school graduation. Tony immediately thought of a rose he had been cultivating for years, a brand new species.
This is the first cuttings.
He reached out to the breeder in Holland, who donated all the rights. The rose will be named after Elizabeth, and it will be released in the fall of next year.
So this is the first one that Home Depot will be taking.
All future sales of the rose will go to the foundation. Hokes says it was meant to be.
As I told the breeder, you couldn't find a more motivated individual than a grieving father to sell plants that has his daughter's name on it. So you will see Elizabeth Ashley across the country and hopefully around the world. Your business model changed after the accident. Yeah. The business model now is a model of giving.
That business model is what gets Hoke out of bed in the morning and leads him here, the local cemetery not far from their home.
We'll put rocks in here. And then I just bought a, hi sweetie.
The Hokes visit Elizabeth's grave every day, sometimes twice. This plot will be the final resting place for their entire family.
There's 14 spots for us.
This is where we get a look into the devastation, the pain everyone calls unimaginable unless you've been there. The thought of burying a child. Among Elizabeth's grave markers,
we have a poem that we keep underneath here. And we say it every day.
It's called Death is Nothing at All.
Nothing is hurt, nothing is lost. One brief moment, and all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh, though, at the trouble of parting when we meet again.
Every day, the Hokes take a picture of their favorite tree here, the cycle of life never lost on a nurseryman.
That tree for us represents the beauty of this valley, right? And it represents the seasonal changes.
Tony says the anger comes in waves. The sorrow, the joys, the memories, the love. Sometimes the waves are big, sometimes small. But this mountaintop, this hill, he calls a blessing.
As hard as it is to be here, you find peace here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You can cry buckets, you can laugh hard, you can tell stories, you can talk out loud, and you can just enjoy the beauty of what all this is about, you know?
The pain never leaves. Hoke says it's unconditional love, so it generates unconditional grief. It's forever. They say family, friends, and faith will get them through. And now, another F, Elizabeth's foundation. As the poet Robert Louis Stevenson said, "Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seed that you plant." For the Hoke family, it's time once again to see what grows.
You know, give, give, give. And that's the purpose of the business, that's the purpose of the foundation, and that's our purpose as individuals now.
We want to make Elizabeth be proud. We were always proud of her, and we want her to look down and know that we're doing her proud by, helping a lot of others.
In addition to the rose, they have also cultivated a brand new species of hydrangea as well. All sales of that will go to the foundation too. We have a link to the foundation page. You'll find that at kgw.com.